What immediately tells you someone is a trashy parent?
Your adult children don't talk to you and you don't know why.
Oh, so this is why my father plays the victim. He just doesn't know why.
Mine as well. And my grandmother, who babies him, had the audacity to say, but he's finding his way back to God. My response, that's genuinely good for him, and maybe God can forgive him because I won't.
Zero interest in the kid. Doesn't care what they do or what happens to them as long as they don't inconvenience them.
When my family moved to my current city when I was in high school, the school I enrolled in had the reputation of being a disposal for kicked-out kids. Basically, I had a lot of rich classmates who had attitude problems, too much allowance, and extremely neglectful parents. We had 2 separate incidents of 15-year-old classmates get gonorrhea from sleeping with prostitutes. Some classmates frequent bars and men's clubs even though they were very much underaged. One kid brought a bottle of expensive vodka to school, and she and a boy drank it all in one sitting. A boy ran over an old lady with his car. Some of them felt like they were untouchable. The parents thought a lot of things can be resolved by money. There are even some who had nannies go to school instead of the parents when the school asked them to disciplinary discussions. We were 3 siblings raised by a single mother with a village that cared. Who would have thought that we were so much luckier than they were?
My school held a vigil for 3 students who wrapped their car around a tree going 140 km/h in a school zone while impaired. All 3 had blood alcohol contents way above the legal limit for an adult and were not good kids, but gifted athletes. They were the kids of some well-off families in the area, so of course everyone was heartbroken by it. I got in trouble and scolded tenfold for pointing out the hypocrisy of the situation. My father is an alcoholic, so I might have been a bit jaded towards drunken stupidity.
Former pre-K teacher. There are so many parents who have kids as accessories, or because their friends have kids, they usually are the same parents who use, "Oh, they don't do that at home," "Oh, I don't know where he heard that word," or laughs off super inappropriate behavior. I'm gonna add an edit. I mean it as saying that and not correcting the behavior. There's a difference in parents who say they never do that, don't hear that from us, and let their child know, hey, you can't do that at school, we can't do that. And parents who say, they never do that, don't hear that, then shrug it off. Their kid does no wrong. It's the same difference as parents who treat teachers as an extension of their child's support system and the ones who treat teachers as the help.
Former kindergarten aide. Maybe you agree with this, because it was something I really learned to be true. I never met a kid who I couldn't stand with parents I liked. I met a lot of kids that I liked with parents I couldn't stand, but never the other way around. If the kid was a shithead, the parents were always unlikable and frustrating to deal with.
Taking the emotions of your child, first crushes, embarrassing moments that they talked with you about, are unsure about, worries they have, etc., and using it at a family gathering to get a laugh out of everybody. Your child will be so embarrassed because of you and will not talk to you in the future. I'm 30 and my mother still does this to me sometimes. The difference today is I will talk back in front of the whole family and suddenly she is embarrassed.
This is why I don't tell my mom stuff. I don't want her 500 closest friends to know.
I only talk to my mom when I have to. If there isn't a need to talk, then there is no conversation, and the details are limited.
Oh man, my mom likes to tell difficult moments of my life when I was a child like they're a joke to people. She was telling my siblings, partners, parents, while we were there to meet them, about the time she had to send me away to live with her friends because we were going to be homeless, and my sibling was a baby, so she kept them with her, and I was so upset about the whole thing and jealous of my baby sibling, and how funny my jealousy was, because they were a baby, and I was 10 years old. They were like, wow. It was a pretty awkward dinner.
Once, around Christmas, my mother, R.I.P., had a couple of her friends over. I was a young adult at the time and visiting. She brought up the story. Well, I'll just repeat the exchange. "Born, you remember that time you pulled a knife on me?" said my mother in an attempt to gain the sympathy of her friends and or to embarrass me. I waited a few silent, stunned seconds and replied, "Yeah, I do remember when I was 13 years old and you were hitting me with a fucking bike chain and I had to grab the kitchen knife to back you off so I could get outside and away from you." My mother's face screwed up in horror and her typical victimhood and cried in pain. "I shit you not." She said, "I can't believe you would bring that up in front of company," and burst into tears.
When I was in my 20s, any person I was serious about enough to bring home, my mom thought was a great opportunity to bag on me in front of. It was embarrassing and a little demoralizing, but I thought, I'm an adult. I can take a little healthy criticism. I tried to just laugh along. One day I reluctantly brought home a new boyfriend, and when my mom tried the usual, he looked confused and said, I'm sorry, I don't find that funny. That's it. Simple and to the point. My mom looked like she just found out she's an asshole, because she did, and I'll never forget the look on her face. She doesn't do that anymore, and I've been married to the guy for 16 years. Yeah, don't bag on your kids in front of other people for laughs. It just makes you a bully, and you're the one who's supposed to protect your kids from bullies.
Parents who can't apologize to a child. It's okay to have human emotions and moment to be triggered, or struggling and lash out, or be wrong, but for the love of all things, good apologize and change.
My dad is a good dad. He can be very tough and yell at you and never admit he's wrong. He can make you feel 3 inches tall, but he always sees the error of his ways and admits his mistakes and apologized always. My mom is quiet and very controlled and passive-aggressive. She comes across as fair and gentle. I'm 43 years old, and even after doing or saying terrible things to me, her only child, things when my dad and her friends even tell her are wrong or she owes me an apology, she has never apologized to me ever in 43 years. She will apologize to my dad or friends, but not me, and she's never admitted to me she was wrong and I was right.
When my parents apologized to me, whether it was something they did directly to me or simply a poor decision they made but they knew I saw them make, it definitely made an impact on me. Yes, I learned things when I saw them do the right thing, but seeing them mess up and own up about it, that's what really stuck with me.
Someone who treats the child from their old marriage like shit because they're no longer with that child's parent. Edit. I want to rephrase. Someone who treats the child from their old marriage differently because they're no longer with that child's parent.
One of my employees had this happen. Her parents both basically moved on from their old lives when she was 5. Her mom ran off to Australia with some guy she met online, and her dad remarried and moved hours away. Neither of them wanted her. She went with one grandma for a while, then the other, then lived with dad for a while, who assaulted her, and then back with grandma. It wasn't until she was an adult that she felt comfortable enough to talk about the assault. She never told anyone when it was happening. And her grandma, dad's mom, told her she must have invited that kind of attention. After all of that, she is the sweetest, most loving person I've ever met. She's had some rough relationships, but she's turned a corner and seems to be blossoming.
My daughter's teacher called one day to tell us our daughter was bullying another student so relentlessly that he was afraid to come to school. We talked to our daughter and she had no idea what we were talking about. Whenever we asked the teacher for the student's name, she actually gave it to us. Turns out I know his mother from high school. So I called her and talked with her, and at first she had no idea what I was talking about. Then she suddenly remembered everything and told me this long story about how her son is afraid of my daughter, blah blah blah. I talked with one of this lady's friends a few days later, and she told me that this lady confessed to her that she just doesn't get enough sleep, always misses her alarms in the morning, and just doesn't get up to take her kids to school. Her first instinct when the school called her to talk about absences was to blame my daughter for bullying her kid.
I went no contact with my parents because of my mother, and I texted her why using clear examples of her behavior. I texted her because the one time I tried to tell her verbally, she screamed at me to stop talking. She's going around now, telling everyone. I don't know why she won't talk to us.
My husband and his brother don't speak to their mother. My brother-in-law has been no contact for about 10 years. For us, it's been about 10 months. It started with me saying I didn't want to deal with her anymore and that I'd just had enough. I didn't care what my husband did or if my kids talked to her, but I didn't want anything to do with her. She made my husband go to her house multiple times and explain to her why I didn't like her after she assaulted me because, assaulting someone in their driveway for all the neighbors to see is what a totally rational person does. I told my husband that I didn't want the kids around her anymore. My husband went no contact. We filled a police report. She was arrested. She told all the family it's my fault. I'm awful, and it's all my fault she has no family. We're not clear why, but this has actually made her focus and attack my brother-in-law. She's been sending him rambling emails. She still tells people she doesn't know why. Anyone who asks me why I've done this, I tell them about how she's an abusive narcissist who faked cancer. She abused not only my husband and his brother, but my father-in-law when he was alive. That usually shuts them up. What were your parents like? How did they behave and what did they do to make them bad parents? Maybe you knew someone whose parents were like that, or even knew them personally. Share your personal stories in the comments. Put a like and subscribe to the channel to not miss more interesting life stories.